Blog Talk Radio.
Recruiting Animal here on January 13th, 2016. Now, when I was in grade 9, just a young guy, our teacher told us that idealists could claim that we shouldn't judge a person on the basis of shallow factors like how they dress. But, she said, I'm going to teach you guys a lesson. I'm going to teach you a lesson today, she said. I once had a student who was a really nice guy, but he dressed like a hood. He dressed like a hoodlum. So that was the first assumption you made about him when you saw him. And I didn't think that was very smart. That was the teacher talking, not me, because at the time, there was a lot of talk about being authentic and how it wasn't fair to force people to wear uniforms at work. And I was, interested in that point of view, the stupid point of view, because it looks like my teacher's advice was how the world really works and how it always will work. The other day, here's my proof, I was reading an article about a woman named Sylvie DiGiusto, D-I-G-I-U-S-T-O. I don't know how to say it. Anyway, she's a personal brand expert, and she says there's a general way that people dress according to the industry they're in, and you should not try to be different. No, you can't be different. Now, she says, look, I don't want you to get the wrong idea about me. I don't want to crush you. I don't want to crush your individuality. So you can wear one personal statement item that is appropriate for the workplace. And for example, Sylvie says, I have a unique pair of eyeglasses, and I like to wear it with my regular business attire. And I know a CEO, he wears the traditional dark suit, but he gets the lining in a flashy pink color or with floral patterns, and that's how he distinguishes himself. Now, if you don't call that individuality, I don't know what is, okay? She also warns that business casual doesn't mean sloppy, so don't stray too far from regular business dress. You want to fit in. Just a couple of other, that's my main point, okay? But just a couple of other things she says, just, while I'm at it. In Italy and France, it's customary to use a lot of cologne or perfume. And I assume, she doesn't say this, but I assume it's because they don't take showers every day, right? But Americans, they wash a lot, right? So they should keep their fragrance subtle. I have to tell you, I used to work in an office with another recruiter from Europe, and he couldn't understand why North Americans shower every day. Anyway, so I think that's the explanation. I had a reason for saying what I did. That's my point. And there's another expert, Vicki Oliver. She says that subconsciously we seek leaders who are tall because we associate height with authority. So if you're short, you want to create the illusion of height by wearing form-fitting clothes, and you should only dress in one color, especially dark colors, because they project power, okay? Now, in the many years this show's been on, this topic hasn't come up very often, so I don't know if we're just clueless or if these women know what they're talking about, or, maybe it isn't really important after all. But maybe today we'll find out on Jerry, what show is this? Jerry! Where's Jerry?
The Recruiting Animal Show!
a singer, and he just joined a rock band, and he was practicing a lot, and he was worried last week about his sore throat. And I saw him writing on Facebook about how Janet Jackson had throat problems, and that scared him. And then Lemmy died, and Natalie Cole, and then David Bowie. So I don't know. Jerry might have given up shouting. He says he's on a business lunch. That's why he's not here, but I don't know if it's true. Maybe he's afraid he's, got an illness. Anyway, so let's go straight to the guest. Andre Penny, are you here?
Animal, I am here. How's it going?
Well, don't hesitate.
Pleasure to be here, by the way.
When I say, are you here? I am here. You're from the military, right?
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
Andre Penny, are you there?
I am here.
Sir, yes, sir. That's what you got to say. Okay, let's just go to the song. Okay, now I gave you the lyrics already. We're going to sing Starman. Okay,
we're going right to the song already. I was just trying to rehearse.
The chorus.
David Bowie.
The chorus.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm ready.
Remember him? He died this week. Okay.
Yeah,
anybody else?
Tragic.
Yeah. Anybody else singing Starman with us? There's a chorus. Just the chorus.
I'll sing.
Okay, good. Anybody else got guts besides Maureen? Besides a girl?
No.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Okay, we're gonna do 1, 2. We're gonna do 1, 2, 3. We'll sing the chorus for Starman, and then it's Andre's It's Andre's birthday tomorrow, so we're gonna sing Happy Birthday. Everybody, please. Everybody can sing Happy Birthday. Okay. Take out the background music, please. I appreciate it, but I don't want it. Okay? Thanks. Okay. Andre, Maureen, and whoever else has some guts, I'm counting to 3. 1, 2, 3. There's a star. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he's blowing our minds. The star waiting up above. He told us not to blow it,
because he knows it's
turn it off.
Let the children lose it. Now, this is where the song gets awful. Let the children boogie. He said book. Didn't he ever know?
He got awful a little while ago.
Boogie.
No, I'm trying to find the lyrics. I can't find the lyrics.
Let the children boogie. Okay. Thank you. Now, going straight to Happy Birthday for Andre. Come on, everybody. Make the guy.
Hi, Andre.
Okay.
Yeah,
it is a great picture. It's a great picture.
We're going to talk about that,
thank
Maureen.
you. Appreciate
Give
it.
us a second. Social media issue. We'll get to that, Mo. Let's sing Happy Birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Andre. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right on.
We didn't have Jerry here dragging us down.
Jerry actually sings Happy Birthday and groans at everything else, okay? But he does drag us down. He won't admit it. He thinks he's saving me all the time. Okay.
He sings too slow. Happy birthday.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. That was beautiful.
Okay. You don't want to tell us how old you are tomorrow? You don't have to.
Oh, okay. Hey, no, not a problem. I'm 35 tomorrow. 35.
Okay,
don't look at Dave.
Green was making a point. Was that a professional photo that you've got that I used for the front page of this show? That's a great photo.
No, actually, no. That was iPhone 6.
Cool.
Isn't it great, Maureen?
It's great. They take great pictures, don't they?
Okay, but he looked.
I think it was the lighting, just a combination. It was, that's it.
But he looked pretty
good.
Modest.
Okay? He's modest.
He looked pretty good. Okay, and you're wearing a nice suit.
Thank you, guys.
On Twitter, this guy's name is. It's a terrible name. It's I'm Andre Penny, but it's IMANDREPENNY. I suppose it could be worse. It reminds me of Jeremy Roberts, which I'm Jeremy R. That's much worse than this. Okay, but anyway, that's the name. We're going to talk about him online.
Well, what do you think he should be?
I don't know. Somebody
else
better. I changed the handle before, Animal.
I thought I lost you. You had Jobs by Andre or Jobs by Dre. Do people call you Dre?
Spin off of the Yeah, exactly. A lot of people here call me Dre. So, I went ahead and got creative and said, jobs by. I'm gonna be posting jobs, so I figured I'd go with Jobs by Dre. But I changed my mind and went back to just my name as the handle.
Okay, but I'm Andre Penny, but you do just post jobs on your Twitter feed. Every social media expert says that is the worst thing you can do as a recruiter with your Twitter feed. Do you get any results from it? I mean, do you prove that they're wrong, or are they right? You just post up those jobs?
Can I say something? I think he should do it. If everyone says he shouldn't, he should do it.
Maybe it makes sense to me, but what are the results? You get anything off of it?
So far, I've looked, I've seen candidates that are interested, and we've had conversations, and I've interviewed candidates. I haven't had any placements from it. I've had interviews set up from it. So, and not a whole hell of a lot.
How many?
Yeah, not a hell of a lot. Literally, I think I've had 2 interviews from Twitter from candidates that I found that have engaged, that have responded via Twitter. I've used Bullhorn, and so a lot of it's automatic. Feeding the Twitter handle.
Yeah. Okay. Don't
Twitter
bore my audience. Don't bore us. Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that before we move on? The idea of just feeding a stream of jobs into your Twitter feed, is it good or bad? Anybody got a comment? Anybody? No, not one.
Hey, let me think. Hey, you know what? I think a lot of people think that's bad from the corporate side, though, right? I mean, what about agency side? I mean,
they're not going to say anything. They don't want to say anything. Unless I know who's on the line and I call them by name, they just don't like to talk. Okay, so you're in Florida, and although your title is recruiting manager, you're a junior recruiter with 2 years' experience. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you're recruiting IT people. What kind specifically? Anybody special?
Well, we're open. I mean, software developers obviously is our bread.
Just say it. Spit it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do anything and everything IT. Really, we're full service. Obviously down here in Miami, .NET's a .NET city, so we do a lot of software developers, some Java guys, and then we do a lot of infrastructure roles as well. Whether it be engineering.
And that's your own. Hold on, let me talk too. Okay, that's your background.
All right.
IT infrastructure. That's your background as in the working world. Am I right about that?
Bingo, 100% correct.
Okay, and what about I saw you I posted a picture of you in your uniform with your mom. I assume it's your mother. And so when were you in the military?
It's my grandmother. Yeah, so I was no worries. I'm from D.C. area, so I served in the Army Reserves 8 years from 2002 to 2010.
Yeah, well, maybe you can't answer this question, but why is it apparently so hard for veterans to find work? Maybe
Actually, I can't answer that question. I know a lot of guys. I mean, because a lot of times, depending if they've been, to war, that's a whole other issue. I have a lot of guys that have, whether PTSD and different types of issues and stuff like that. But if the candidate's fine and is looking for work, a lot of times the skills that they may learn in service don't quite translate to the real world from what I've seen, depending on what they're doing. Like some of the stuff is, you're not going to find too many. A lot of times it's too, the job is too detailed, and it doesn't really translate to real world experience or what the world is looking for.
People are always talking about recruiters helping veterans.
Right.
It's really not possible, is what you seem to be saying. It's a nice thought, but it's not possible. Am I right about that?
No. See, that's not necessarily the case either. I mean, it depends. Like, there's some guys I know. I used to work here in a military base in Miami, United States Southern Command, and there's a lot of guys that are actually doing really good IT work there. They're working with Cisco. They're working with, Microsoft server technology, and those are skills that translate outside in the real world. It's the guys that are doing some of the radio stuff, some of the, just stuff that's, it's not that common, and especially for us to really help out, here in the real world.
So we're beating ourselves up, or recruiters, I'm not even in your country, but recruiters are, although we have veterans here too, but recruiters are beating themselves up for not placing enough veterans, but it's really not possible. That's what you're telling me. Is that true? There's a few of them. But the bulk of them are not easily placeable, certainly not by recruiters. Is that true or false?
Well, it's true depending on the firm. I think it would have to be a special firm to be able to handle. That's why VA usually plays a role.
Moving on. Okay, the big topic on my Facebook group this morning was how you reject candidates. How do you reject them? You send a candidate in for an interview, they strike out,
okay.
and you thought they were pretty good. You think they must think they're pretty good. What do you do? How do you tell them?
So they had an interview with the client. They were rejected. If I have detailed feedback, I try to give them as much feedback as possible.
Give us an example. Do you remember anybody?
Yeah, of course. I had a guy get rejected yesterday.
Okay,
yeah,
what'd you say?
So I had a guy get rejected yesterday. They felt that it was an IT security engineer role, and so basically they said he was too much on the network side. That's it. That's the only feedback I got. So I gave him. That's the feedback I said, hey, look, I just want to let you know that the client, they liked you. However, they want to go in a different direction. They felt that you didn't have the policy experience there that they were looking for. They felt that you were too technical on the networking side, and so we'll hang in there and we'll move forward. So,
did you think that was a reasonable reason, a good reason for rejecting the guy? Did you agree? He was very hands-on. I did agree with him, but at the same time, sometimes you need clarity on these positions. So, I wasn't gonna disagree with him, but I definitely understood what they were talking about. He was heavy on the networking side. So why'd you present him? Because you didn't know the job? Was he a trial balloon?
It was more or less his career, where he wanted to go, right? And so it matched up well with where he wanted to go. Plus, he was with a great company out here. So I figured, the great company, plus he already had the certain certification they were looking for. A lot of the check marks he had there, it just wasn't strong enough on the policy side. So,
okay.
A little off on the skills match. Just a little off.
Okay, so he was still, and have these guys ever talked back to you and said, Andre, that's crazy, that's not a good reason for rejecting me, I have this experience that you say I don't?
Yeah, I've had that happen. I've had it happen several times.
Tell us the story.
Yeah,
I want to hear it.
Absolutely, yeah. So, a lot of times some of the desktop guys, lower level infrastructure guys, when you tell them that they don't have, certain experience they're looking for, they kind of take it personal, and so it's like, I have that, I did it here, and, I say, well, I always, I let them know that, hey, look, we talked about this in the initial interview. I represented you. I told them everything that you had. I told them that you're the guy for the job. They just felt that you weren't strong enough. And so some guys, it's tough to put up with it, and then that's when I go to try to help out. What I try to do is, because I come from an IT background, and I try to, explain to them what could help them get to the next level. Sometimes if it's maybe the education, maybe if it's certification, I try to offer some type of value, to help that candidate out.
Okay, let me just say something. If I don't have an IT background like you do, if I was rejecting somebody, I would just be feeding back what my hiring manager told me. And so if the person said, I got this, they're wrong, I'd be like a dummy or like a deer in the headlights. I wouldn't have any, okay, maybe you do. I don't know. But, this is what the hiring manager said. And do you ever have that? Do you ever have you really don't understand why they were rejected and you can't explain it well and you can't prove it to them and you're sort of like left in limbo there, caught between, you're the middleman.
Can't prove it to the candidates?
Yeah, what? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Let Michael
Cox. If the candidate has that experience, if the candidate has that experience and fails to demonstrate said experience or expertise during the interview, too bad. The interview process is over. You failed to demonstrate that during the interview.
You know what, Michael Cox? That's your way of bluffing. That's your bluff. Oh, yeah, you've got
the experience. I'm not bluffing. I'm telling them exactly the truth.
Okay, Michael Cox. So let me go back for a second, and I'll prove it to them, okay?
Okay.
Because that's not you use this double talk, Michael Cox. You say, "Oh, you didn't demonstrate that you've got the customer service experience we're looking for." Oh, where did I fall down, Mike? Oh, geez, I don't know. But you didn't demonstrate.
Or did you fall down? You didn't fall down. You didn't demonstrate it during the interview process. And if you don't do that during the interview process,
Mike,
you don't get a second chance.
Can you be a bit more granular? I don't really understand. You're talking up at a high level. It doesn't mean very much to me. If you gave me some specific feedback, I would be able to improve. How about that, Mike?
Again, this position was for you mentioned a customer service rep type gig. I felt that you had the experience. You didn't demonstrate your expertise during the interview. We can't move forward.
Okay.
I don't see how that's double talking.
Yeah, okay. Everybody else, I hope they do, but I guess you don't want to.
Okay. Well, I'm open to their feedback.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that? Or Andre, like I gave Mike I wanted to talk to Michael about that, so I pushed you to the side. What would you do if somebody came back and said, "Look, I think I've got the experience," and you yourself, based on your own expertise, couldn't argue with them.
Right.
You couldn't lay it out and say, "Look, this is where you're missing it, and I'll prove it to you." Okay? What happened?
He said, and I could not explain to them where they're missing.
Yeah. Does that ever happen?
Yeah. Well, Mike makes a great point. I mean, at that point, if they had the experience on their resume, and the client responds and says, "Hey, this guy, he fell short. He came up a little short in this area, but it's on the resume." Then obviously he didn't do a good job of demonstrating. Then I would mention it. I would say, "Hey, look, what kind of questions?" I always like to talk about the technical questions during the interview. What questions were covered? What were your answers? I try to get as much information as possible, on a post-interview wrap up. So if the candidate, if he obviously didn't do a good job of demonstrating it, I would say, how did you answer that question? How did you let them know that, hey, that you had this experience? Did you cover that? Did you mention that in the process at all? And I would see what they say, And then,
this also goes back to candidate prep. If you know, what your client is looking for, and you should, if you're taking that order, then you should be prepping your candidate to make sure and hit on those points.
Right.
Andre,
absolutely.
Okay. Andre, okay, I guess I should just drop this, but I feel I'm not quick enough to pin you guys down, but I know you're bluffing somehow. You're not telling the full story. I mean, I'm telling you, if I had an IT guy, I would lay out I would describe the job as well as I could, what the requirements are. He seems to have it on his resume, or she seems to have it. You send her in. The feedback comes back, we want somebody else. And you say, well, how come? And if you're lucky and they give you some feedback, you go back to the candidate and he says, "Animal, you're wrong. I do have that." And what am I going to do? I just have to stand there. "Oh, you didn't demonstrate it." I sure did. Come on, tell me where I missed out.
Well, hey,
you're back at tough. No. Then you and Mike, then you say, "Well, tough luck. You don't get a second chance." That's what he actually said a minute ago, right? Go ahead.
Yes.
No second chance.
My company here, Sendo Resources, we always make sure that we prep every single candidate, right? Whatever the client's looking for, we make sure that we cover it in detail. And that's something that Sendo drives, that's something that we make sure that we do with our candidates. Now, sometimes with IT, people, they'll all right, so if someone has, for example, Active Directory Exchange, maybe they'll go deeper, and that can, we could prep them all day as far as, okay, they're going to cover this, they're going to cover that, they're going to cover, if it's a software developer, they're going to make sure you have your Angular experience, talk about that. But sometimes these technical deep dive interviews, it's, you can't get them all right, So a lot of times that breaks candidates down, and that's when you want to talk about how they interview. I always tell candidates, my job is to make sure I get you the interview, make sure you're prepared for the interview. The rest is on you to go ahead and finish it. And we prepare them, and that's it. Okay.
Do your hiring managers always take the time to give you detailed feedback? Why they rejected somebody and why they accepted somebody?
Good question.
Yeah. What's the answer?
Yeah. When we get it, they always make sure that we get the feedback. Do we get?
No. They always take the time. You always. So what if they say, "Look, I'm busy right now," they give you a couple of phrases and nothing more. You say, "Hey, Joe, I'm working on this search. You have to spend some time with me. Don't brush me off. I got to go back and talk to this guy you rejected. Do you say that?
I wouldn't say it like that. I don't know, Mike. Mike, how do you handle it?
What do you say?
Hey, if we have, a candidate that fell short, or we didn't get the proper the proper response, proper feedback, I say, I always send a quick little message. Hey, what were we missing here? What was the issue with the candidate? I mean, you like them, they want to bring them in. Usually, we submit, a few profiles over, and obviously a few get selected, right? So,
don't talk around it. Don't talk around it. You're not answering the question, okay? I said, A, do these hiring managers always take the time to lay out in detail why they rejected somebody, okay? And if they don't, what do you do?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I'm sorry. Correction, no. A lot of times, it's a good mix. A lot of times we don't get the feedback. It's not no feedback at all. And we get no feedback at all. Depending on the scenario, I always send a message, a follow-up message. Hey, where did this candidate fall short? And see how they respond accordingly.
Okay, you know what? I'm talking to the wall here. I'm not getting much of an answer. Okay, the other question there, I can't even remember. If I don't write down what I want to say, I just forget. Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that?
Are you losing it, Animal?
I don't have Alzheimer's, okay? My father's not feeling well. He called me at 4 o'clock.
What's the matter with you today?
I said, why are you calling me at 4? He said, oh, is it 4 o'clock? Okay. Yeah, I was up early. I'm a bit agitated, okay? Give me a break. I'm running a show. And this guy's in the military. When I ask a question, I expect an answer to the question. I don't expect an answer to another question or a non-answer.
Andre, you got that?
I got it.
Okay. Both of you.
Okay. Does anybody else want to talk?
Get it together.
Does anybody else want to talk? Hey, Andre, let me ask you a question. I just thought that picture that you took with your iPhone, this is a compliment. It just was great. It looked like a professional picture. Your clothing, and you dressed for success. What do you think about that? How do you dress for work?
On a day, I'm not one of the best dressers in the office. I mean, I was going to go visit a client that day, and so I just went ahead and was feeling good and took a quick picture. But typically I'm okay. I'm average dresser, I'd say. I'm not too snazzy or anything or too fancy or. I was listening to your beginning. No, I wear IT. We don't wear ties here. We just wear nice dress shirts and slacks. So we do put the jacket on. Obviously, we go visit a client. We'll go ahead and put a nice tie and jacket on then.
Do you do business development as well, or just recruiting?
Primarily recruiting, but I do work with a few clients here as well. So we do have the freedom
work with them, or bring in new business. Business development.
Bring both, but bring in new business as well.
How do you bring in new business?
Easy. Make a target list. I make phone calls.
What do you say?
A couple of different ways. Depends on the phone call. Sometimes I'll do a quick intro call if it's if they have a need. If I see something on maybe a job board or LinkedIn, and then I'll go ahead and then obviously every call I like to go into the call with a little bit of firepower. So if I see that they're looking for a network administrator, a developer, whatever the case is, if I have, which I should. Have the candidate, a candidate that can do the job. I always try to go ahead and represent and market that candidate to that particular employer.
Okay. So how do you know
Animal,
who to ask
can
for?
you try and see if you can unmute Derek Zeller?
Okay, let me just see. I unmuted everybody. Was he area code 571 or something? That was the last one I unmuted. Everybody's unmuted.
571.
Okay, well, you can talk. You have something you want to say? I got to tell you something.
I've forgotten what I wanted to say. I've been sitting in queue for so damn long.
Okay, you want to complain for a while? Go ahead. I'll give you 60 seconds.
I love to complain. I love this guy. He's good.
Yeah.
Solid. Welcome to the industry, man. 2 years experience. That's awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And he's got some good things to say, and I like that. I like to hear the new generation not just kind of say the same BS that we hear day after day.
What good things did he have to say? What good things did he have to say?
He's smart. He understands that sometimes managers are not going to give you the feedback you're looking for, and you can push and push and push, and they're just going to ignore you.
And
it's being a third party, I believe you're third party, right?
yeah, he's third
absolutely.
party.
Yep, third party.
I thought you were listening.
Well, I'm trying. The main issue has been for you and a third party situation is to start making sure that you partner with your managers as opposed to just being a resource. So explain to them from the very get-go, this is what I expect after you interview, and give them a list of things like a checklist to go through so that they give you some a little bit better feedback other than, he just wasn't technical enough, or he wasn't this, or he wasn't that. But what make that better part of your search next, right? So you take all these things that are good. Okay, so then why did you tell me that's what you wanted?
Okay, well, you think you can dictate to these bozos? Maybe you can. Okay, you're a forceful man. Yeah,
I like that, man. You know what? I'm literally taking notes right now. I appreciate that.
It's different than dictating. I'm not dictating. I'm just saying this is, we have a responsibility for each other to make sure that
expectations. I like it.
Okay. Now, I remembered what I was going to ask. What if they do give you feedback, but you're too embarrassed to tell the candidate? Like, you know what? This guy's personality, I thought he was a drip. I don't want to work with him every day. Or her voice, if I listened to that all day, I'd have to shoot myself. And I don't care what her credentials are and her technical abilities. What if they say something about their personality or appearance, and you, what do you go back and say, look, he didn't like your personality, or, tough luck? Is that what you do, Andre?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if I receive any feedback, I'm gonna let. I don't
believe
good,
you.
Bad,
I don't.
I'm gonna let them know.
You. Okay. Has it ever happened? Has it ever happened that the hiring manager said, "This guy turns me off. There's something about his personality. I wouldn't want to have to deal with him every day." Or he seems too pushy or something. He's too full of himself.
Right.
Do you ever go back and say, you know what? The hiring manager said you're too full of yourself. Have you ever done that?
Well, yeah. Actually, there was a situation. Let me give you a story. There was a situation where
I love stories.
It was and this happens every. I'm assuming it's happened to me several times already in this industry. So I can imagine you guys have a million stories where you get the candidate on the interview process is a little bit too talkative, right? And sometimes now, after being in the seat just on 2 years, I can kind of gauge during the interview process whether that could be a situation or not. And during the prep, I would try to say, hey, look, you may want to just kind of keep the answer short, which we always advise anyway, get right to the point. But yeah, I've had
I got to tell you, if you're not straightforward, the guy's not going to get that message. If he's an over-talker, you have to say, look, I got to tell you something. You talk too much, and you better cut it short, or this guy's going to just throw you out. Really, if someone is an over-talker and you say something subtle like, "Oh, keep it short," you think they're going to really pick up on that? I don't.
Right. Well, you know what? The story, I didn't get to understand it. This happened a couple of weeks ago. I had a candidate I was working with. It's one of our consultants, and he was, I know he's way too chatty, and from previous experience already, I said, look, I just want to level with you. I want to be honest. Look, you talk a lot, okay? And I've seen people for that, especially on these temporary projects. So just make sure, you just be mindful of if you feel like you're doing too much talking, just be mindful. Just go in there, do the work as necessary, and that's it. So I always, I got right to the point on that one. I wanted to make sure he understood.
Thanks, Andre. Yeah, you didn't insult me. I really appreciate that feedback. The tough talk, the blunt, the blunt people, they're your best friends. Is that what he said?
Not quite like that, but he understood, though.
Okay. Now, Holly Reslink, our good friend, has a question for you. What made Andre, or Dre, like that girl in The Sopranos, what made Dre get into the business of recruiting when he was already in IT?
Great question. So, I've been in IT since I was 18.
Wait a second. Holly Reslink, number one, did that make you feel good? People always say, great question. Did that make you feel good, Holly? Number two, Maureen used to be my friend. She'd come on the show and watch Twitter for me, and she'd say, Holly Reslink has a question. Instead, I have to look myself, okay?
I told you, I don't
fair.
see these questions anymore.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, Andre, now you can give your answer to that good question. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So as I mentioned before, I'm from D.C. area, and a lot of my work that I've done has been in the federal contracting route, the cleared space. And so that's how I got to Miami. I'm from D.C. to Vegas for a few years, and was in Miami. That's how I got to Miami. So I lost that opportunity, and essentially my clearance level was lost as well. It was in limbo. It was a weird status. So I didn't want to go back to D.C. area because I could have went back and just, skipped contracts or what have you. But so I stayed in Miami, and I took some time off. And my brother, I wanted to kind of get in sales anyway. I was kind of reading up on just the sales and different types of things like that. I was looking to try something new anyway. And so during that time period, I took, a few months off. And, staffing and recruiting, I looked up the industry. My brother was already working with a huge player here in the accounting and finance side in D.C.
You want me to tell you, I got to tell you something. Want me to tell you how to turn that 10-minute answer into a 30-second answer? You know what?
Sure.
I had some problems getting a job. My brother was in the business, so I went into it too. That's the answer, okay?
Andre, he's good at that. He's good at that.
Okay. Now, our good friend, Stephanie David, she might be on the line. She had a question as well. I think we answered it.
All right.
Hers was, isn't it your obligation to get detailed feedback from HR for your candidate? I think we covered that. Oh, dear. Animal is a bit agitated.
Well, wait a minute. Is that a yes or a no answer?
Yeah, be agitated, okay?
Wait. Is that a yes or a no answer?
What do you mean?
Is that a yes or a no answer?
Yeah, he said yes. Yeah, we're obligated to get detailed feedback. Sometimes they don't want to give it, okay? Anybody got a question? Michael Cox, Derek Zeller, they're not afraid to talk, but there's lots of people here. Everybody's free to talk. 5.
But nobody will.
3, 2, 1. Okay, well, I got lots of questions. Do you have any questions, Maureen? How he sources his candidates? You want to tell us how you find?
Yeah. How do you source your candidates?
Well, down here, I mean, I guess all over the boards, a combination. We love referrals. From interviews, we interview a candidate. We always try to make sure.
How do you get a referral? My favorite question. How do you get referral?
A couple of different ways.
Like
I said, during the initial interview process, we're wrapping it up. Depending on the role, if it's a project, say, look, we're looking for multiple guys. Who do you know? Or I can go off some of the hot jobs I may have, or just some core skill sets. I'll say, hey, who do you know do you know anybody that has this particular skill set? Do you know anybody that's looking that has this? Because you just ask for it.
And they give them. And they give them. They give them.
And they give them. They give them.
Oh,
I mean, you got to bring it. You can't ask all your head down. You have to just say, hey, look, I need a .NET developer that has MVC. Do you know anybody right now? There's one name.
He can talk the talk. And what did you say? You can't ask all with your head down. Isn't that a great way to put it? You can't ask all with your head down.
What does it mean,
You just got to go right at them.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, Andre?
That's exactly. You got it, Maureen. That's it. You just got to, hey, look, let them know it's pretty urgent for you. If you're asking for referrals, they're like, hey, do you know anybody? Hey, I need somebody. Who do you know?
Yeah.
And let me get a name and number. Let me, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you doing this?
Usually,
are you doing this on the phone or are you doing this in person?
My
both
question.
ways.
Go ahead. That was my question. Go ahead.
Great. So usually, what I'm talking about right now, my example was interview in person. When I meet it with a candidate, I'll try to get more leads out of them. Not leads, but just more referrals. And so
Did he
on
answer
the
your
phone
question?
now, there's times.
On the phone? What happens on the phone?
Well, let him finish.
On the phone, candidates, I
story.
don't quite get the referral, but I still, like today, I had to come in this morning. It's a hot job. I need somebody with this particular skill set, and so I found some guys on LinkedIn I was connected to. I made the call, and I said, hey, who do you know? I mean, who do you know with this? Do you have anybody in mind? And they're like, send me an email or whatever. But I usually always try to get a name and number, at least one name and number.
And those were strangers. Hold on, let me clarify. Those were strangers you found on LinkedIn, and you just called them out of the blue. And you asked for a referral, and they gave them to you. Is that right? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's happening.
Okay, let's back that up.
Yep.
Let's back that up. You called them out of the blue.
LinkedIn is there, so now Maureen's going to get
sometimes I call
okay?
guys. Sometimes I call guys, at their job. Okay.
At their
whatever
job.
it takes. Yeah, whatever it takes. I mean, if if we're connected on LinkedIn and they don't have a number, then I'll just call them I call them literally at their job if I can and say, hey, look, I know you're at work, so I'll be real brief. But look, I'm looking for somebody.
And what do they do? Do they gasp and curse at you and slam the phone down, and are they mean and
nasty?
No,
I haven't had that.
Well, let's talk about it, because
that's
the perception that's being put out, that you don't call people at work.
Oh, really? No. Well,
Yep.
Let me tell you, one of my best placements last year, one of my most proud placements, top 3 from last year. It was one of the clients I was working with directly, right? So it was my BD client. They told me exactly what they were looking for. It was kind of a one-off skill set, particular to their industry. They said they wanted this industry experience, this particular skill set, and there was like 2 guys, So I found one guy who was working with a big company, probably a better company, But I said, what, let me call him and see who he knows, and and kind of get around to it, asking him. And so I reached out to him and said, look, I thought you'd be great for this position, and I don't know if you're looking or not. And I called him right at work, and he was. He said he had to step outside. I guess he stepped in the hallway, whatever. We had a quick conversation, got his information, and we went ahead, got his actual cell phone number. We talked that night, got him submitted. Next thing you know, 2-3 weeks later, he has a new job. So
okay,
there you go.
Hold on. I didn't understand something. That was a long answer. Was that guy someone you already knew, or you someone who you just found on LinkedIn and didn't know at all?
Just found on LinkedIn, didn't know him. I don't look.
Okay.
I'm still growing out here. I'm an agency recruiter, and I'm not from Miami, so I've been here 5 years now. But it's so everybody. I'm establishing those relationships right now. So everything has to be.
Okay.
Higher.
Listen to me.
Can I ask a question, Animal? Just one question.
I gotta
just one.
ask.
You always ask. Does anybody have any questions? I have a question.
Go ahead.
Let me ask one question, please. So would you say that 9.99 calls out of 10 to IT people that you find on LinkedIn or online or wherever, you call at their desk, at work, 9.99 out of 10 that you connect with, you received graciously?
Well, first off, I don't call hell of a lot, at their job. I mean, I've done it enough. I've done it enough, and so it hasn't been. I would say, it's been probably like 8 out of 10. If you want to, it's been more warm than negative, actually.
So 8 out of 10 receive you warmly.
Right.
And the 2 out of 10 receive you how?
Yeah, so you'll get a guy that's like he's like, I can't talk right now, just hang up.
So
right?
2 out of 10 would rather speak with you at another time.
Exactly.
They just hang
up.
8
out of 10 will speak with you right then and there.
Okay.
There's not the time. There's not the place.
Okay. Let me ask a question, Maureen. You can come back in. Okay. Is LinkedIn your primary source of candidates? Yes or no?
No. But you know what though? It's changing up. But let me tell you what. I'm a little bit late. Well, I just started exporting and really exporting my LinkedIn contacts where I can actually sort them out in Excel and put a filter there, and based on skill set. And now I can kind of send it in like emails to a particular skill set within my LinkedIn connection. So I'm starting to rely more on LinkedIn now because the boards are kind of dried up, and we're still adding on to our.
What do you mean
here.
boards? Wait a second. Job board, resume banks. Those were your first. The first place you got candidates. Your major source. Is that what you're saying? Job board, resume bank. Yes or no?
What do you mean it was the first place?
Was that
your first place I looked?
Now you're starting to use LinkedIn more. Prior to that, was your major source of candidates the resume banks on job boards. How hard is it to understand, okay?
It's one of them. It's our database. I like to rely on our company database.
Okay, you've got an internal company database. Okay, fine. Now, your first method of contact, when you were talking to Maureen, you said you don't usually call people at work. Is it email or in-mail? How do you get in touch with people? First contact.
From a LinkedIn connection or just in general?
No, anywhere. I don't care. Just tell me. How do you usually contact
I like
people?
Phone. Hey, look, I'm agency. We're high speed over here. We like to get on the phone. We like to dial out phone calls. That's it.
But where do you call?
Week.
You said you don't like calling them at work. Where do you call them? At home?
When did he say that?
No, I said I'll call them anywhere I can get a hold of them. If I don't have a cell phone number, a house number, then I'll call them at work. And that's just off the LinkedIn connection. If their number, they don't share their information on LinkedIn, how to get in contact with them, then, aside from their email, and I want to call them, then I'll call them at work because I want to speak to them real quick, So, and then I'll always follow up in a day with an email. If I called them, I couldn't reach them, then I'll send an email.
Derek Zeller,
so
he
finds the work number, Animal, and he calls the work, and he asks for them.
I sort of got the other impression. Derek Zeller, anything you want to say? You were very.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if they put a work number down and they can't talk at work, I mean, I work in a security cleared field. I'm in D.C. I can't talk to my guys during the day. I mean, we talk predominantly through email.
Right.
You know what? Who is that?
Who's going on?
It's me. I'm sorry. It's my cell phone in the background.
So yeah, I mean, there's times when let me close the door to my office, for example.
Yeah.
But get around it is say, is this a good time for you to chat? If not, then can we set up a time that I can call you on your cell phone at lunch, or between 11 and 1, or after 6, or before 7 in the morning? I mean, it's just it's making sure that they understand that you're there for them just as much as they are there for you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what's rocket surgery?
And then what I like to do is, if I don't know the person at all, and I'm calling them at work, I before I even go there, I like to at least think, the obvious. Hey, look, I know I'm calling you at work. You probably have people around, but listen, I'm calling you because of this, and I'm tell them why I'm calling them. I'll quickly ask, hey, can you talk right now? If not, okay, and wait for an answer. If they can't talk right now, then I say, okay, great. You know what? Let me call you back. When's a better time to call you? And what's a better number for you? And that way I can get their actual, cell phone number, what have you.
Who wouldn't talk to that?
I got a quick question for you. Are you responsible for, I know you mentioned you don't do very much business development, but perhaps through your screening or interviewing of candidates, are you doing any lead generation?
Oh, man, good question. That's something that... it's been on my mind. Looking at it from the agency side, how do I get, obviously your social media stuff. You just see the job postings. I want to get more into that. The lead generation, other than just job postings, really none right now.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike. You got a quick question.
I would recommend that if you're screening a candidate or interviewing somebody for a specific job, they're clearly already active. Have they been interviewing anywhere else? If they mention where they've been interviewing, you've got a lead right there.
That's That's
underhanded. I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's immoral.
Whatever.
No, I had it confused. Yeah, I definitely do that. I mean, every single candidate. Hey, where have you? And we have it on a form here. Where have you been interviewing?
How is that underhanded there, man?
Okay, what you're doing there. The guy is looking for a job, or the woman, and you get into, you ask them where they're looking, and so you don't tell them it, but so you can send in competition to squeeze them out. That's what you're trying to do. You're taking that information.
No, because you're going to ask, how is that going? Are you still in the running? And you're also, dude, you're going to try and help this person out. You also have to expect something in return. You've got to try and get yourself a lead, because it's all about business development, man.
Did Derek want to say something there? Derek was coming into that conversation. Am I right or wrong about that?
I actually had a different question from somebody on the land of Twitter, Angela Bortolucci. The lovely Angela wanted to know, how do you build your network or build relationships with IT people?
Oh,
did he answer
great
that?
question. The best way to do it.
Great question.
The best way to do it in Miami or anywhere is through different events, whether it's a conference, whether it's a whatever industry related events. Obviously we take a look at, there's some pretty big ones here, some pretty big paloozas, different types of events here we like to go out where with job fairs. You mentioned veterans before, Animal, and I went to a job fair.
Animal job fair
for veterans a couple months ago. It was great. I met a lot of great, actual, really good IT guys that are coming from the armed forces. So I thought that was a great network experience. But yeah, the best way to meet them outside of traditional business is to go to the events. We have a couple of different development schools out here as well. Go to their pitch nights, their graduations and stuff like that. I think that's something I plan on doing a lot more of for this year.
Okay, following up on something Maureen said, we always hear that IT guys absolutely hate recruiters because they're getting too many calls. Doesn't sound like you've got that experience.
What, do they hate me, or when I was in IT, did I hate recruiters? Which?
Well, yeah, it's a good. Fine. Did you hate recruiters? We keep reading. The reason I ask is because there's a guy, Chris Murdoch, was on this show, and I heard him on another show saying that these really good IT guys are getting so many calls they don't want to talk to any recruiters. They hate getting calls, and so he has to go.
True.
He has to go to events. You never mentioned that. Maureen asked, "Are they happy to hear from you?" Yeah, why not? Sure.
No, not everybody's happy. But you try to be enthusiastic on the phone, obviously, to get a better, warmer reception, right? But at the end of the day, the good candidates, the really good ones now, are getting really creative. Whether it's Google Voice, they have to have a filtering process before you can even get a hold of them. So I've heard a couple of voicemails that are set up where it's like, hey, press 1 if you're a recruiter. There's different things candidates are doing. So the events are, as I said, this year the events are huge for me to meet better candidates. You have to go to the events.
Okay. Maureen, did you think that he left something out then? The guy's confessing now that it's really hard to get in touch with these people that he's targeting. Maureen, I want your opinion.
High level people, Animal. High level.
Okay, not the ordinary run-of-the-mill people then, okay? Just
right.
The losers always want to hear from you. Okay, I got that. Now, you've been in the business 2 years. 2 years is a long time. I've read people say on Facebook, recruiting is not rocket science. Is there anything you've got left to learn? 2 years? You know it all now, right?
The basics. You can always get better. There's always. Especially
what are you missing? What are you missing?
You mentioned the business development piece. Just getting better as far as some of the business, like negotiations and just dealing with clients a little bit better initially. After the initial meeting, I'm okay with it. Okay, that's
a non-answer. Yeah, there's a non-answer. Okay, it sounds like he doesn't know how to sell the service yet. But as far as the recruiting end goes, you've got it down pat already. Am I right or wrong? What's that?
Always
chirping
something to
sound?
learn, but it's pretty.
What's that chirping sound? Go ahead.
Yeah, the recruiting is pretty straightforward. There's always something to learn, but as far as
always something to learn, but I don't have any
psychology.
Okay, now what about this as a culture question that you can ask a company? What do people complain about? Well, the people who are working with you already, what do they complain about? Do you think that's good? I do. Do you think that's a good question to ask? What do people complain about in your company?
Not like that. I like to spin it like this. I like to spin it. What are some of the challenges that you have within your company?
And what do they say? What do they say when you ask? Give us a story. What do they say when you ask that?
No, a lot of times guys are complaining about workload. It's look, we only have 3 developers, and we have the workload is too much, or just like the guy this morning actually complained because he was upset. It was with the company. He thought they were they were in rapid growth mode. Looks like things have slowed down. They lost some investors, and so now he wants to get out. So I said, what are some of the challenges there? He's like, the investors.
Yeah, I was talking about something different. I was talking, and I guess you already told us business development is not your forte, so I jumped the gun. I was talking about when you talk to a new hiring manager or a new client, you could say, what are the negatives in your company? What do people complain about there?
Right.
Anybody got a comment on that before I move on? I guess it's kind of irrelevant in this context. Michael Cox, if somebody called you and you were dealing with a recruiter and they said, what's wrong with your company, how would you feel about that?
It depends. If I was a highly active person looking for a job, I might be more open
That's
to
not what
sharing.
I said. I'm talking about the client. Talking about the client. Okay, I'll move on. I'm wrong. Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. Okay. Let me see. What questions? Yeah. Do you send recruiting emails? Doesn't sound like you use email for cold calls, right? Andre.
Cold call is a phone call, right? I use email for a phone call, for a cold call?
Yeah, but lots of people, I don't know, you're not with it, I guess, but lots of recruiters, they're moving away from phone to email. Well, I'm hearing all this kind of terrible noise. Can everybody else hear it?
It's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's annoying.
Yeah, it is annoying, but we're almost out of time anyway. So you don't use email. That's your answer. I don't use email. I get on the phone. Okay. Okay, let me just see what else
Prefer
I
phone
have.
call.
Do you have, okay. Do you use voicemail? Do you leave voicemail messages? Some people say voicemail
I'll tell
is
you something
dead.
I do use. Hold up. I'll tell you something I do use, right? And I use it a
Yeah.
lot. I use Google Voice. I like that if I'm calling somebody and their phone's ringing and it seems like they're not going to pick up, I already just you can use Google Voice on your laptop, right? So you can go ahead and quickly type, a quick little message. Hey, give me a call or whatever the message is. Say my name. I'll just do a quick text to them. And that's actually been working out pretty good. I've been using it a lot lately.
But you need a cell phone to use that?
No, I mean you don't need it. Well, I think so. You have to
you
type
need a
to
cell
a
phone
number.
You need a cell phone number. How do you get their
No,
cell
it's a
number?
Google Voice number. You need a Gmail. You need a Google account, and you'll get you can sign up for Google Voice, and Google will give you a number.
Okay, but what about their number? How do you get it to the other party? How do you target the person on Google?
Oh yeah,
First
absolutely. Hopefully it's their cell phone number.
Okay.
Most of the
my
time,
impression
if
was,
it's
I'll
mobile,
just have to say something. Google Voice has been replaced by Hangouts, hasn't it? Well, maybe not for you.
No.
Maybe it's different in
Not at all.
Canada. Okay. But we're almost done. Any questions? Anything I haven't asked you that you think I should have? That you want to tell us? What was the hardest thing for you to learn as a new recruiter? What's the worst part of the job that you didn't? What was your biggest surprise?
I mean, we covered it. How I got into recruiting. You asked some really good questions. Actually, I have to get ready to go now. I have to visit a client to walk a candidate in.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Right. Okay. Andre Penny. There's no after show because Jerry's not here. Andre Penny. Thank you.